Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Well, welcome to our new installment of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. Again, what an amazing time it's been. Such great feedback, such a great opportunity to hear from such an interesting and wide range of peers. Today is no different. You know, some people may say we have a celebrity, minor or major. That's for you to decide. But nonetheless, Marcus, we are thrilled to have you joining us today.
Oh, I am very thrilled to be here today. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. Friends, as we always invite you, we're inviting you personally. Make sure that you have clicked the like button on this episode, whether you're getting that via your podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or these days you might be getting it on YouTube. And then, of course, subscribe, because as you continue to contribute, your simple action of helping another, that expands the awareness for the whole profession. And with that, Marcus, people are excited to know a little bit about you, hear a little bit about your background. So were you born this way, or how did your life come to intersect with the valuation and appraisal profession?
You know, I don't think I was born this way, but I will tell you there were certain things in my journey that helped me get to this point where I am today. I will say I come from a very humble area of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
You know, I grew up around in the 90s where my whole neighborhood was literally on a HBO special called Banging in Little Rock.
Oh, no way. Really?
And so it highlighted the very worst of Little Rock, Arkansas. It highlighted gangs, drugs, violence, a lot of things that, you know, as a youth, you try to avoid, but you can't really, you know, choose how you grow up as a young person. But there were certain things that helped me get to where I am today. And I will first start off sharing about my grandfather.
Oh, really?
My grandfather was in the Air Force for over 20 years, 17 days.
Wow.
And he was a very hardworking man. And he really pushed me as a young person to kind of stay on the right path. And because of him, you know, I owe a lot of my journey, you know, because of him, because he pushed me. And he taught me a lot of different things around, like, just having patience and the essence of hard work and, you know, just doing things the right way instead of halfway. And I really, really appreciated those long life lessons. Also, I grew up in church, and I was around a great church community where I had lots of different moms and dads in the church that would, you know, maybe go to a high school football game and support me, or just kind of give me a words of encouragement here and there, which was really helpful, you know, because where I grew up, you know, I was literally one decision away from just like a totally different life. And
wow,
I feel like very, very blessed to have had some people in my life to just kind of keep me on the right path.
That's amazing to have that type of influence as a young person, especially as you mentioned, where you grow up being the subject of a documentary about the difficulties of it. So did you get to spend a good bit of time of your young life with your grandfather? I know not everyone has the benefit of growing up with grandparents.
Yeah. So actually, my mom, we lived right around the corner from my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
So it was so crazy for me. We just really connected. I love all my family, but it's just something about grandpa, right?
Of course.
And so, but I literally, growing up, my grandmother would cook breakfast for me before I get on the school bus every morning. And so, that was just, you know, I'm so very thankful for her and just having that relationship with them. And I really looked up to my grandfather and grandparents.
Yeah, I really hear that. I can hear that in how you're describing it. Well, as you look back, is your grandpa still alive, or is he gone on?
Oh man, my grandmother's passed, but my grandfather is 93 years old this year.
93. Oh,
he'll be
amazing.
94 in November, Lord willing.
Wow. Good Lord willing. I love that. So do you still get to spend some time with him now and then, or is he's just busy, because he's such an impactful gentleman?
Oh man, he's living his best life, still living at his house, and so I get to see him very often now that I'm back in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I just kind of want to help him out, make sure he doesn't need anything, or just spend time with him, watching football, and just kind of hanging around,
That is football territory indeed. Well, as you look back on that, what was one of your biggest life lessons from Grandpa? We all have those stories or those situations, and then Grandpa just has a way to put a spin on it, show some perspective.
I think the essence of hard work from him. He was in the military. He used to always tell me that, I always took every class that they offered to kind of move up in the ranks, and it's kind of reminds me, our industry that, we always got to take courses, right? We always got to do these things to become competent or, just learning more about our field. And so I think that aspect of just kind of him willing to do the things that other people probably wasn't doing, staying around to take these extra classes, to get up in ranks. I think that was definitely thing that I learned from him.
Oh man, that's a wonderful thing. So you got this wonderful benefit to be surrounded by family. You mentioned that you grew up in the church. Were you preaching at a young age?
No, I was in the choir. I was.
You in the choir? Oh, we first musical talent here on our podcast.
I was around other people in my situation. Like I was around, a few other friends, and kind of not so best neighborhoods, and so we kind of kept each other accountable. And it was really cool to just be around that knit group of people from other peers my age, but then also, other families just kind of giving you support.
Oh, I get it. So for you, given that type of community support and family support, was education your pathway through school or was it sports?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay. Tell us about it.
I started playing football at a young age, which was also a way for me to stay on a positive path.
Okay.
There was a coach called Ed Johnson. He was a pillar of the community of Little Rock.
Yes.
And he helped a lot of kids, man, kind of just get on that right path by introducing football to them. And I really kind of enjoyed the sport and got really good in high school. But also I knew that education was going to be key for me. And so while I was maybe junior high school, I woke up one morning and was like, you know what, I want to go to college. And so that instilled in me, okay, if I want to continue to play the sport I love, got to have the grades, right?
Yep.
But I knew I wanted to get a college degree. I didn't care whatever else I did in life. I just knew that was something that I want to accomplish. And that was literally my first goal that I set for myself.
That's a worthwhile goal. Congratulations. And so did you go to college or did you go straight to pros or how'd that go for you?
Went to the University of Arkansas.
Go Razorbacks.
Go Razorbacks.
Yes, sir.
But got hurt my second year. Got a chance to, be a part of the Razorback football team and eventually got hurt. But it was just such a great time there to learn time management, because as an athlete, you're not only having to go to class, but you also have to go to practice, study a playbook, work out. It was you have to really diversify your time at a younger age. And I think that also helped me, develop these skills, to get into our industry.
No, that is indeed the case. Time management is a function of everybody's life and specifically ones with short deadlines or fast turning deadlines. So you get to go to the University of Arkansas, as my grandma used to say. We lived in Little Rock for a long time. Used to spend a lot of summers there. So it brings back fond memories. That and Hot Springs, of course. But wow. So you end up going to the University of Arkansas. What was your idea when you went to college? Like, did you know what you wanted to do or you're kind of like, I'm here and I got to figure it out?
Sure. So I told you I grew up in a challenging neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of things going on. So I actually wanted to study law and become an attorney. So that was my goal, like, oh, okay, I want to be an attorney. I want to go to college, get my degree and then go to law school afterward. That was my plan for me. So I thought. But
okay.
I did a double major in criminal justice and sociology. So I really enjoyed the aspect of just learning, studying those fields and writing papers and, just kind of really getting in depth into that particular part of law.
What most appealed to you about criminal justice and sociology?
Just how they're entwined together. A lot of people don't really know different laws that's out there. And then just the whole aspect of the mindset around, people getting in trouble and just all of that, how it kind of breaks down your mental space, if you get involved in that arena. And it's just very interesting to me. And the topics that we were, write papers on was just very appealing to me. And I just wanted to learn more and more and more because I honestly had I was around it as a young man. I was around people going to jail and just in that whole thing. And so I just wanted to learn more. It was so interesting to me. Just wanted to kind of study it. Didn't want to do really pre-law, because I just wanted to actually home in on a particular few topics to kind of get a broader aspect of just those pre-law records. But yeah, I was able to graduate May of 2005 with 2 degrees. And what was really cool about it was, to see my family, see me walk across that stage, out of all the things that I had to endure, as a young man. It was awesome to just get them to see me accomplish one goal.
So, Marcus, you mentioned setting a goal and getting a double major, graduating for the University of Arkansas, and having that experience of having your whole family there. What was that feeling like?
It was amazing. They're like, for me, a life goal was to just honor my family and just really try to live a life that honors them and gives them something to brag about, because I think all our family, we love to see our people do well and maybe, share something that one of the family members are doing positive, and so I think for me, it was just really awesome to have them just be there and see the hard work that I put into to accomplishing that goal.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, man, it made me feel amazing. It made me feel like I can do whatever I put my mind to do. I was just excited to see the joy on their faces, to see, oh, wow, he actually sought out to do something and did it. And so it made me really feel amazing.
Oh, congratulations on that. So we've had the privilege of having a couple attorneys on the podcast. Are you the next attorney on our podcast?
Probably not.
Probably not. Oh, well, tell us more.
I've actually met a few people that have been an attorney and then turned into appraisers. So,
all right.
So,
but you didn't go down that path, is what you're telling us.
No, I actually didn't. I graduated from the University of Arkansas and ended up going back to Little Rock, where I'm from, to potentially go to law school to kind of get prepared for it. And I actually, 1 month after graduating, I had the amazing opportunity to have a summer job working for an appraiser.
How does that happen?
So I knew a particular family that I grew up with in church.
All right.
And so I'd always just kind of stay connected with that family when I would kind of come back home and go to church. And so I ended up seeing one of the particular men in the part of his family, and he just kind of asked me, he's like, "Hey man, what you gonna do when you get out of college?" I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna move back home and go to law school." And because I actually had a cousin that went to the U of A, and then he went back to Little Rock and went to law school.
Oh wow, okay.
And he's doing really well for himself. He's actually an instructor at the law school. And
so congratulations!
Kind of, mimic his steps because he's doing very well, but. Saw the church member, he was like, "Well, you want to come work for me, until you start, figuring out the law school thing?" I was like, "Sure." I didn't even know what he was doing.
You're like, "Wait a minute. I just graduated. You're offering me employment? Oh, that sounds like a good plan. That sounds like a good plan."
Right. And I was just like, "Hey, you going to pay me?"
Oh, it's even better. Even better.
And so he was actually an appraiser. Once I started the first few weeks, I really didn't do my, didn't do any appraisal work. I just kind of was learning the flow of things, but he had me rearrange his work file.
Oh,
and so that took me about probably 3 to 4 weeks to do that. I organized his whole entire work file, with previous appraisals that he's completed, just so they could be easily accessible. And so that was the introduction to my, intro to appraising, rearranging the work file.
That's a little different from taking some of those criminal justice classes.
Sure, absolutely. But, for me, I was just excited to have the opportunity. I didn't even really know much about anything, but, it goes back to where my grandfather just kind of really implemented, like, just whatever you're doing, do it with passion, do it with hard work, do it with enthusiasm. Whatever he asked me to do, I just did it and put a smile on my face because I was just happy to have the opportunity.
It definitely makes a difference. Was this the friend of the family who invited you in? Was he operating as an individual, or did he have a team, or did he have a large company?
Yeah, he had a small appraisal firm. He had about 3 other people working for him.
Okay.
And of course, I was the youngest to walk in that office. But, I think I'm just so very grateful to him, because he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to, even provide that opportunity for me. I still thank him to this day because I literally found my passion, like 1 month after college. And he provided every...
Wait. I have to interrupt you. I apologize. So you just barely finished up doing 3 or 4 weeks of rearranging work files, and you tell me you found your passion? This is amazing, Marcus. We need to mint this for people. I can't tell you how many people would love to have people that love just to rearrange work files and then fall in love with the industry. This is amazing.
I just will say, yes. After doing those 3 or 4 weeks of rearranging those files and then learning more about what goes on in the appraisal, it literally was a breath of fresh air for me. Wow. And I didn't even think about going to law school again.
Wow. What was it that you were exposed to in that first month with him and some of the others in the office that so impacted you? Because I'm clear it's not shuffling papers in manila envelopes or manila folders.
So in my experience with him and his company, he allowed me to actually just kind of go on inspections with him for a while, and so I kind of got the real life experience of what the day to day was like for an appraiser. And so just the aspect of not being behind a computer desk the whole entire time of working, was really wow, this is cool. Okay, I get to do some work in front of a, laptop to do a report, but it's also a part of it where you have to do an actual physical inspection of a property.
Okay.
And so just kind of learning those things just from the jump was oh, wow. I didn't know if I was just the 9 to 5 kind of person to just be in front of a computer every day like that.
Yes.
But the whole aspect of that dual workload of, doing a report and doing inspection, it was wow, this is the best of both worlds.
And which were those best worlds from your perspective?
So the aspect of having to measure a property, every single time. And, we look at houses, they may look the same, but they're all different. And so for me, that aspect of having to figure out this one thing first all the time, every inspection, you got to get the square footage right. And so that was wow, it kind of looked at, wow, these entities or companies are dependent on me to actually get this one thing right, a few things right, but especially the square footage of a home. And so just learning how to measure a property was just fascinating to me.
That is absolutely amazing. And you touch on the benefit of not just being behind a desk from 9 to 5, but getting to move around a little bit, interact with people, engage, do research, share your thoughts. What was your progression as someone joining the industry after you got out of the work file stage?
So the aspect of it kind of reminded me of what I was studying in criminal justice. In the appraisal field, you have to learn to be an investigator, right? And so that whole aspect kind of reminded me of things I was kind of learning while I was in college, but that aspect of kind of trying to figure out what the value is of this house, what's the true value, without any noise or without any without any
without knowing what it was before you got there,
without knowing
exactly
anybody in the deal, just kind of that whole aspect of trying to figure out what the number of this property is. And that, I feel like, really inspired me to really get serious about now going to take courses. And so when I started taking the actual courses, because I had that perspective of like going out with my mentor first, kind of put a lot of things in perspective for me. And that kind of made me want to learn more and more.
Yeah, that'll definitely do it for you to have that taste, if you will, of what's possible, and then get to start to put some of the learning behind it. And as you touched on, yes, it is an interesting way to characterize the work of people in valuation, being an investigator. They're like, oh, I'm an appraiser. I'm like, what's that? It's like, well, I'm doing some investigation. And in Little Rock, it sounds like, based on some of the things you touched on, that the gentleman that you started out with was doing residential only, or residential and commercial?
He was primarily doing a lot of residential with a little commercial.
Yes.
And so for me, just learning aspect of just more houses than actual commercial properties was, it kind of pushed me even to, take this industry very serious. There's a lot of work into commercial properties. And so, did get a taste of it, but, I really enjoyed, the residential work that he was doing, or just learning about more and more about residential.
Hey, that's a big one. And what's the housing stock like in the area or areas that you all were working in?
As far as, your typical single family property subdivisions, there was some mixed use there, but not a whole lot. It was primarily a lot of subdivisions, a lot of single family. And
so, do you still with that firm today, or how did that come together? Or did you by chance, did he retire and you take over, or what came next?
Oh man, I actually got super motivated in the industry, and I started, taking more classes, and got to a point where I got all of my education requirements, done. And I was working for my mentor for around, a little over 2 years, full time, every single day. And, he always pushed me to, get my own license, and so I actually did that. And I was roughly around, I want to say about 25, 26 years old when I actually sat for my exam to get my own license. And
congratulations.
Yeah, it's
exciting.
It was just a really amazing thing to just get passionate about something that you want to learn more and more, but then learn the business side of it too, while you're learning the actual work. And so he really gave me the eye-opening feel of what it was like to actually run a business and just learn the business side of it, along how to, competently do the work. And so I gained that very young. And so that, I think, is what inspired me to like, hey, you know what? I think I could do this on my own. And, I really didn't see a lot of people my age, in the field at the time. And so that inspired me even more to kind of push myself to get my own license and start my own company.
The market right now is tough for appraisal companies. Many companies are having a hard time getting enough work with the same marketing they used to. Is your company struggling, having a hard time getting new customers, or getting additional work from existing customers? The answer to this problem is easier than you think. Do more business with the people you already know. Over 10 years, the average U.S. appraisal firm meets over 17,000 potential customers. That's a lot of people you could be doing business with right now. But it's a big problem if you don't have a proven process to communicate with them. StoryLex turns this problem into an opportunity to grow. Our advanced AI marketing tool can rebuild your contact lists and harvest long-forgotten communications. Imagine reaching out to everyone you've ever met with just one click. For the cost of 1 or 2 appraisals a month, StoryLex helps you reconnect and market to people who already know you, like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Act now by contacting StoryLex today to turn your business growth dreams into reality. Email appraisal@storylux.com. That is appraisal at storylux.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode.
So you got your own license and then you start your own company. And how did that go? How do you get started? I mean, a lot of people, the idea sounds nice, if not pleasing, but for many, wow, that road is awfully steep and not everyone can survive the journey. How did it go for you?
Well, once I got my license, passed the test, I really did a lot of research on what it was like starting a business. I reached out to a lot of people from my church group and that maybe had like small businesses and just kind of learn more and more about, things that you have to think about as a business owner. I just will say, working with my mentor, it grew me up very fast. Like I said, it's a lot that goes into the appraisal field and you have to learn a lot. And because he allowed me to learn not only the work, but the business side of it, it just gave me a lot of confidence. And so before I launched my company, I just wanted to learn, more and more about just business and what's it like to actually run a business. And then once I got that information and felt comfortable, I went ahead and went out on my own. But I just will say, I didn't know that year was going to turn into a recession year.
So we talking what, 2007, 8, 9?
Yeah, 2008 is when I launched my company.
What a fantastic year to launch the appraisal business. Ooh, how'd that go? Talk to us about it.
Yeah, it was a challenge, because, as an appraiser, you literally see the market change, right? You see everything change. And one thing my mentor really taught me is from the jump is to diversify yourself with work. And so that's one thing I did. Not only was I, still getting work from lenders, AMCs were there, but they wasn't like they are now, right?
Oh, okay.
And so I still had relationships that my mentor showed me.
Yes.
A few AMCs that kind of helped me kind of get things on track. And so my mentor also talked to me about, hey, reach out to a few actual, attorney companies, that deal with divorce cases. And I did that. Actually I had a few people that I knew that were attorneys. And so that actually helped sustain 2008 as well by just doing appraisals for, divorce cases. And also banks were, foreclosing on properties then. And so you would do a lot of REO work as well. And so that's what really I think is so beautiful about the appraisal field. Like, it's just not one thing, it's lender work. There's multiple ways people utilize appraisers, especially when you're trying to remove your mortgage insurance, or attorneys, banks doing foreclosures, REO work. There's tax appraisals, insurance appraisals. People just need general market value appraisals. You got probate, so there's definitely a lot of different ways people can utilize and put themselves out there to receive work. And so I would just say, my mentor is just showing me the diversity to diversify in the types of assignments was really beneficial for me to learn.
And how did that being counseled to diversify serve you, in building your practice?
It served me very, very well. Not only did he teach me around diversifying the assignments, but just, how to the communication that's needed between when you have multiple clients. Back then, you could, before the Dodd-Frank bill passed, you could literally, reach out, go to VP of a bank and just say, hey, I'm an appraiser, would love to get on your list, right? And so just building those relationships, was really great back then. And I feel like just learning those aspects of thinking outside the box and putting yourself out there. I would go to Chamber of Commerce events when they would give small businesses a chance to talk about their business. I just didn't shy away from sharing that I was an appraiser. And so back then, like I said, a lot of lenders could choose the appraiser. And so that helped me by just kind of building relationships.
And that's really exciting. In 2008, as the world was shifting on an axis most people didn't even know existed, what was your method to actually connect with people who did not know you were in the profession?
So I would do random breakfast events with local banks and mortgage companies. Like I would sometimes randomly go and bring a company breakfast out the blue and just kind of pass out my cards and kind of let them know I'm available. I was doing a quicker turnaround time around that time. And so just to kind of separate myself from the other companies that were, maybe taking a week and a half to get an appraisal back. But I was young, I didn't have any kids. I could just work all hours out the day, and I just wanted to think outside the box. And I would say just doing things like that really helped me get my name out there. And then I would also really be willing to answer a lot of questions. Sometimes when you go to an appraisal inspection, the homeowner is going to ask you lots of different things, and just taking time to kind of, answer their concerns maybe, or, kind of really may help them spread your name to other people.
That is a wonderful way to get going. So were you continuing to diversify your practice for yourself, or did you start to build a team the way your first employment went with your both, I would call it mentor as well as counselor as you went out on your own, or did you go build some big national company?
Well, so I'm in my appraisal business and I actually wanted to learn more about real estate. So I started while I was running my appraisal company, I wanted to learn mortgage lending.
Got it.
And so I ended up kind of learning more about mortgages, and I wanted to learn more about investing. So I didn't really diversify my appraisal business. I was just the sole person running it. But I diversified my mindset in real estate to kind of learn more about other things that was going on, because I thought for myself, I'm going to buy a house at some point. And so, but I want to learn more about what goes on there. And I diversified in that way, just learning more about real estate in general.
So did you go become a mortgage broker?
I actually did. Yeah.
Oh, you did. That's one way to learn, is jump in the deep end of the pool.
Absolutely. Which kind of helped me too, because I had already had appraisal knowledge, and so I actually got a chance to work with a small mortgage broker and just kind of learn in that space. So some days I would be doing appraisals, some days I'll be doing lending.
Oh, that's a nice balance.
And I think that really helped me to just kind of learn. And I go back to my grandfather, like he's always would take these courses and learn more about his craft and things that he had to learn. So I just never shied away from taking time to learn things. And so not only did I learn mortgages, then I started learning how to invest into properties and learning more in that space as well. So I just, as a young man, I really wanted to learn the entire industry and not just stop at appraisals. And I think that served me well, just being willing to just kind of learn more.
And so what did you learn by making the effort to become a licensed mortgage broker?
I actually learned more about what goes on, when people get a mortgage loan. Most of our loans are probably backed by Fannie or Freddie Mac, and
yes.
So I didn't really know that. Most people don't even know, right?
No, sir.
And so they have requirements, that a loan has to meet in order for them to back it. And so I just would say that just the understanding of that aspect, and then also how important credit is. Credit is so important to people in their lives, and you have to really protect it, because that can literally help you get the very best way or the very worst rate there is.
Yes.
And so that whole aspect of just kind of learning what takes place in a loan really served me well just in my entire career.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. So are you still doing mortgage brokerage today, or did you, do what's his name? Mr. Wonderful there on Shark Tank did? Build up a big mortgage business, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and then sell it off. And now you're just a famous shark we just don't know about yet, or what?
Oh, no. As I was in my career of, running my appraisal company, doing mortgage loans, investing into real estate, a few years later, I got the amazing opportunity to actually work for Fannie Mae. And so,
oh, really? Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was
many people get that. Yeah, that's great.
And so it was back in actually 2012, I believe.
Yes.
And so I had the opportunity to become a valuation analyst in the valuation department of Fannie Mae. And so stint of years of, running a company, doing mortgages, investing, led to Fannie Mae. And I was with them for over 10 years, actually, wow, in that space, valuing properties all across the U.S. And that was such another thing that I thought would help me learn more. And so I'm just very thankful for that opportunity to increase my appraisal awareness and knowledge of what's going on nationwide instead of just the state of Arkansas.
I totally hear you on the value of getting your feet wet with properties beyond your local market, and then even more so getting exposure and experience with properties nationwide. That's a whole different level of whoa kind of experience. Looking back when you first joined as an analyst at Fannie Mae, what was your responsibility back then?
So I would analyze and review properties that Fannie Mae owned in different parts of the country.
Yes.
And so I would, estimate repairs, literally value our asset at that time.
Oh, okay.
And so primarily that's kind of what I did for almost over 10 years.
So it sounds like you were in default servicing then?
Yeah, we were in the risk part of Fannie Mae and deal with a lot of REO.
Oh, well, that's a great experience in and of itself. If you could pick a core curriculum, I think that would definitely be an anchor in it to build up somebody's knowledge. What about you? What did you learn through focusing on those kind of properties and those property situations?
Sure. So, a very big thing that, I did not understand, well, I would say understand, but just wasn't aware of, just the different types of properties that have large extent repair amounts. And they vary from different parts of the country. I just would say, properties up in New York, New Jersey, a lot of those are over 4-unit properties.
Yes.
Have very extensive repairs that you got to consider. And so just learning REO on something like that and just how to accurately value it right and estimate repairs was something that I've very feel honored to learn, because wouldn't have that opportunity in Arkansas. So in Arkansas, you have typically a lot of single family, 3-bed, 2 baths, 3 or 4 beds or, 2 baths property. Sure. And so, but just kind of understanding what goes on in, different parts of the country when you have extensive repairs was just really just a great way to expand my knowledge base.
What was it like handling properties across the nation as opposed to just in Little Rock?
It was an experience because I literally had to understand the things that impact value across the U.S., like in different parts, and to actually kind of know how to get down to the root of value of learning the different markets, what impacts value there, or even just the repair aspect of it, and just understanding the different designs and appeal types of properties was just an amazing opportunity.
You talked about that kind of core value. Share a little bit more about that, because a lot of our listeners are actually not in the profession, but they find it fascinating. Maybe like you, they were headed towards law school, studying criminal justice, and then their interest gets piqued, and they're like, "Oh, maybe that's something I might be interested in. I could follow in Marcus's footsteps."
Absolutely. Like I said, for me, it was more of the learning to be an investigator.
Yes.
And I think the core value of actually understanding like, wow, the public is entrusting you to give an accurate value, and so a lot of people, I think the aspect too is a lot of people are leaning on you to do a really good job, and a lot of decisions are being made on the value that you give. So I think the aspect of responsibility, really was a core value there, and to really be competent of your work and being in a field where, most people that get a mortgage loan are going to have to use an appraiser. And so I just go back to that sense of responsibility and that sense of knowing that people are dependent on you was really cool to be in that position, which I think inspired me to continue to, get into this field. And then the aspect of learning. There's out in the field, you're going to continue to have to take courses, do USPAP updates, a lot of different things that you're going to have to continue to learn. And I just feel like for people that, have that investigative mindset or just want to support the public, this is just an amazing field to be in.
I think a lot of people would agree with you on that one. It's definitely the case. How did you come to appreciate the work that Fannie Mae does? You had an understanding of what Fannie Mae was or wasn't based on being an appraiser and then being a mortgage broker. And then I think you said you spent over a decade there. What knowledge did you develop that somebody out in the field just wouldn't have any understanding of?
I just would go back to the value, influence, and features. You look at the different parts of the country, you go down to Florida, right?
Yes.
Florida has a lot of water views, golf course views, all these things that you don't really get to see, in Arkansas, right?
Yes.
And so it's just learning the different markets was just eye-blowing. Going to valuing stuff in Northeast. I've never really seen a Northeast property.
Oh.
And so just understanding that because you gain this skill set, you can actually use this skill set anywhere once you get it. I think, once you go through the appraisal knowledge, it's just like a college degree. Once you graduate, you got that degree forever. So I feel like in the field, once you gain the aspect of like valuing properties, the knowledge around it, you're always going to have it. And it was great to see that I could utilize, my knowledge of just being familiar with properties in the South, but then actually take those things that I learned and do and apply those in different parts of the country. I think that was a great way to showcase, this field of learning and going through the training and going through the things that you need to know to accurately value a property. That's something that I didn't realize that could happen.
That's amazing. And congratulations on that opportunity. It sounds like that amazing opportunity at some point offered you a transition. So does that mean that, did you join one of those reality TV shows or get your own Netflix series, or what came next?
So I actually had the mindset to actually write a book. And so
congratulations. So now you're a book author too. Man, you were just a multi-talented person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I realized years later that a lot of people don't get an open window of what it's like to learn this field young.
Yes.
And so I wanted to share my story for the next generation, or even just kind of give people my view, my story of what it was like for me to start training in this field 1 month after, graduating college, but just these things that I started learning and how passionate I became about, and just kind of take people through my journey of learning this field, but then also running my own company so young, and the things that I had to learn before I went into business, or what it was like to even be young appraising in 2008, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's a different world. Most people that were not alive for it or not in the industry don't understand the reference, but those that do, it resonates.
Yes. And just very thankful to have had that mindset to just share my story in that way. And, honestly, I just really wrote it to impact people that maybe thought about maybe get into this field, and just kind of wanted to get a wide open perspective. And not only did I write the book, but I also now do speaking around my journey. Wow. And, just kind of giving my story to groups and organizations literally to inspire them.
What is the typical feedback, or I should say the most impactful feedback, either of them or both, that you receive from these opportunities to share your experience?
Because the industry is typically older,
yes,
a lot of people have really shared that they could relate in a way of my story to just kind of finding something that they didn't necessarily plan to get into. But once I did get into it, I became so passionate about it. And I just think, whatever field or career you get into, when you don't expect to get into something and it then literally becomes your passion, I think a lot of people have shared that is so relatable, And another thing would be to, I hear a lot of people say, wow, I'm so glad I met you because I want to share your story with my son or my daughter or nieces and nephews to just kind of know that there is a story out there, that has got into that particular field younger. And so I think for me, just kind of being of service, of sharing and potentially impacting people is such a great feeling.
Totally agree with you. As they would say in church, amen to that. Bringing it to that point you made about feedback you've received with people complimenting you on, wow, this is a story I really want to share with others. What are the 2 or 3 things that really touch them most that have them say, hey, I really want to share your story with someone else? Because, a lot of people hear stories all the time and they don't pass them on.
Sure. A few things I would say is my attitude around things. The first thing I did when I entered in the appraisal industry, like I mentioned before, was to organize a work file. That's not just such a great thing, right? But I just think, and actually it was in a hot office. And so with no AC. And so a lot of people I've heard like, wow, you had the willingness to just do that and have a great attitude around it. And and being appreciative for an opportunity. I feel like a lot of times, sometimes we get opportunities, right? And we don't put our best foot forward with them. And I've heard, feedback from people of saying like, wow, just the way you had your attitude around, being a part of a company where you don't really know much about what's going on. You're just kind of open to whatever needs to be done and having a great attitude about it. Or even having the mindset to launch a company young. It's a lot of responsibility at a young age to be in business, especially this kind of business, when you don't really see a lot of young people in it. And so, but I just would say people have shared like, wow, you really was very careful and particular around even doing that, even though you felt like you knew a lot, but just kind of preparing to launch something and not just willy-nilly doing it,
Yeah, very much so.
That has been something that people have shared. And then all the things that I learned, not only do I share my appraisal career and journey, but I have chapters in my book around, buying your first house, what it's like, and then how to be a landlord or talk about real estate investments. And so not only do I share my story, but I actually give people, things that they could implement, that may work out for them. And so just a willingness to be open and candid with things I learned over my almost 20-year career has been a few things that people have, been excited to hear.
That's really impressive. Given the amazing experiences you've had so far, as well as looking forward to the next, even just 3 to 5 years, as you look back on, what are the top 2 to 3 takeaways you've gained, and how does that influence your outlook for the next 3 to 5 years?
I just would say being open to change, like in this industry, things always change, and just having a willingness and open mindset, and, not feeling like you know it all, and being willing to be coached or, those are some definitely things that I really would say that helped me venture off into my journey. I just would say I hope to, just be a story that people can share over the next 3 to 5 years to, help encourage more people to get into the field. Because I just say learning this field so young was everything for me. I literally was able to find something that I enjoyed doing, and felt a sense of responsibility of doing it. And so I would just say that I hope that continues.
Wonderful. And how does that influence your outlook over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I feel like I'm living more in purpose right now. I'm actually sharing with different groups. And for me, I feel like if I can, just kind of be a voice of this career, of just kind of, giving examples of this career would be just great.
Man, that's phenomenal. Well, Marcus, such a breath of fresh air from someone who is freshly breathing in the industry compared to the industry average. Are you still half the industry average, or are you creeping up on it more quickly these days?
I'm getting up there. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm actually 42 years old.
Oh, man, you're a young guy, as they say in this profession.
And so, but I just want to say, I'm just glad that I've had these opportunities, and if I can share to help people maybe get a whiff of what it's like going through the training or running a company or even valuing properties nationally, I just want to be of service. And so that's the whole big thing with me.
Oh, man, that's fantastic. Well, the profession is in good hands with more people like you out there. So I definitely appreciate hearing that. That is definitely solid stuff. Well, Marcus, thank you so much. And for everybody, thank you for spending a little time with us here this lovely day. So much learning, so much takeaway. Definitely hit the back button and get to listen to it one more time. And Marcus, what's the name of your book?
Oh, so the name of my book is called Assessing My Value, Thoughts from a Trailblazer in the Real Estate Industry.
Fantastic. Well, I hope many people get the opportunity over the rest of this year and next year to hear you somewhere sharing your story. And if not, maybe they'll even just reach out and create a little chapter learning event for you to make it even better.
That would be awesome. I always open to share.
Well, we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. Well, friends, as I mentioned, light up the comments. Feel free to share there. Marcus is an active person on social media, as well as be generous and share this out to your friends. And until next time, hey, go create some value, as Marcus touches there for us with his book in Assessing My Value. Marcus, thank you again so much.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Appraisers, Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.